Okay, so I guess we've started. So let's see when Frank is gonna um, enter the room. That time, let me quickly describe what is gonna be that we're gonna be talking about today. So Frank is a real cool guy, and you'll definitely hear more about as time progresses in terms of the podcast. And I believe we'll mostly discuss what he's gone through in terms of health journey and diet and the conclusions that he came to realize and whatever else it is that he discovered along the way. And so I believe there's a lot of wisdom to derive from these sorts of conversations, and maybe that's one of the most important reasons why I love talking to people about that and about diet and about, I don't know, like the journeys and what they went through and whatever catastrophes, chaos, and challenges they absolutely had to face, and the struggle that accompanied them along the way, and whatever lessons they learned from that. Kind of that's the most interesting question as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, like maybe that's one of the most important reasons why I enjoy interviewing athletes so much, because athletes have such an insane amount of wisdom that they are desperate to share, and they embody the wisdom in their workouts, and they show them what struggle means. They show you what struggle means when they work out, when they perform this beautiful art that's called sports. And yeah, it's clearly an embodiment of something. And I haven't been quite able to figure out exactly what it is that athletes and me being part of this group of athletes that we try to embody and to represent when we exercise, and when we show that, and when we film that, and when other people look at that. And it's a very interesting question. So, but the same thing holds true for virtually everything else that can be conceptualized as some sort of embodiment of a lesson. Or yeah, it's difficult to talk about these sorts of things because they're pretty profound, and they basically touch on intrinsic human motivations. So here we go. That's Frank. Let me let him in. It works. Hope that works. I will need a few more seconds. But it should be working.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, there you go.
How's it going?
How you doing, man?
Pretty good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry for the confusion. That was a bit messy. Like, it happens sometimes to me when I arrange podcasts with someone, and then I don't know, I confuse like 2 p.m. with 4 p.m. or 6 with 8 p.m. and then I'd be like, okay, was that a correct time? Did I do that? Well, I didn't, and then have to. So sometimes it's a mess, but I'm glad that it worked out well.
Oh yeah, me too.
So how you doing over there?
Pretty good. Yeah, had a pretty busy day. Bought a lot of meat today, actually. So
you had a lot of meat today. I presume that's a good thing. That's something to celebrate.
Yeah. Weather's finally behaving here, kind of, and so great day to go for a bike ride, get what I needed, and yeah, that's what I did. So
you're in Vermont, right?
Yeah, in Vermont,
Vermont,
in the U.S. So yeah,
in the U.S. Were you born in the U.S.? So how was your journey when it comes to your living place?
Yeah, I'm from Maryland. There's another state in Maryland in the U.S. So it's probably like 14 hours from Vermont. Short little plane ride though. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's cool to have you on. It's really cool because
I'm really excited.
I believe yeah, I believe there's a lot to talk about when it comes to your health journey and whatever you went through in terms of, what would you say, kind of transformation, health transformation, because there is lots of wisdom to derive from these sorts of challenges, I would say.
Mhm.
And personally, it's difficult for me personally to tell these kinds of stories because I've basically nothing to tell. That's a cool thing. That's an interesting thing to to continuously find out when I talk to these people, like you, for example, because mostly when I encounter people in the health space, it's almost always this pattern of disease and then discovery of something that has the capacity to change your current state of being, and then transformation into something approximating health, right? And so I was never able to tell that about myself because I was always healthy. I'm still healthy. I had never any serious conditions, and still I'm
Yeah,
so interested in health. And maybe I'm come from a place where I want to prevent this from happening and help as many people as possible, something like that. But
that's
I find it
awesome.
so fascinating to talk to people about their journeys. So
Yeah.
tell us, I don't know, something about what you do and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, currently, I work on a farm and do landscaping up here in
Mhm.
Vermont. Um, and yeah, I stumbled upon carnivore, a lot of meat eating. We can go down that story.
Right.
Um, and yeah, currently, I love to experiment um, with diet and nutrition, health,
Mhm.
just to learn more. And I just love learning, and I use kind of my body as a science experiment sometimes, and
Right.
um, tried many different things, and it's been fun. It's been great, and it's cool talking to good people that are interested in it, and that you feel like you can help with um, your experiments. So that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, yeah. Like, do you work on the farm? Is it
Yeah. Yeah, I'm currently just about to go back next week. It's a chicken. It's mainly a chicken farm, broilers, meat farm, and
right?
egg laying hens as well. A
Uh-huh.
lot of beef, pork, and turkeys. So it's a little bit of everything.
And how long have you been living on the farm? Like, did it happen recently, or like as far as I know from your story, you haven't been carnivore forever, or like meat based, whatever you want to call that, and so you probably haven't been living on a farm forever. So when did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good point. I grew up in a rural area of Maryland,
Okay. Uh-huh.
and so there were farms nearby. But it wasn't until after high school and to college I got more into the agriculture scene.
Hmm.
Granted, it was more like the whole vegetable production route. I was, it's veganism then as well. Oh
Yeah.
god. um, and yeah, just was really interested in sustainable agriculture for many years now as environmental. And once I had to fix my health with more animal products, then I just turned that around from vegetable production to more meat production.
Hmm.
And that's been a blast. So I've traveled a little bit doing livestock farming in the U.S. and learned from a lot of great people, and it's been fun. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Why? Like one question that pops to mind somehow is, why do you believe the agriculture field is getting less attractive to young people nowadays? Like I cannot quite figure it out myself. Like me personally, like I go to university. So many people want to go to university. It seems to be a thing right now, and there's a reason why you should go to university. But why do you think people don't find it attractive anymore to work in agriculture, and why was it an attractive place for you to go into? Like if we turn the question around, why didn't you want to pursue something else? Why was it agriculture?
yeah. Wow, those are really good questions. And I mean, historically, I think in the U.S. after like World War II and like industrialization, uh, people were leaving farms for the city for easier living, uh, more money, and just more
Hmm.
fun in general. And nowadays, I feel like we're kind of seeing a push back from that, fortunately. kind of, where we see younger people like late teens, early 20s, even 30s, like kind of quit their jobs, kind of quit school, go into farming because they've had enough of it. But you're right. At the same time, it does seem like not a lot of people are getting not enough people are getting into farming. This is hard work. It's not glamorous or good pay.
Good old physical labor.
Yeah, I mean, it has its moments. Like I enjoy it because because of the labor.
Right.
And so, yeah, having experience on it, I can see why people choose not to do it from the stress of working with other people, quite honestly, like out there, like equipment breaking, and it's just everything is variable, like every day, and it can be really stressful, but I ultimately like it, and that's why I do it for that reason. It's very exciting.
Do you like the physical part of it, or also the part that allows you to work and communicate with other people, or the fact that you interact with animals, or the fact that you eat lots of meat because of that? Like, what is it? Or is it all of that combination of all these things?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a combination of all that. I do get a discount on meat, which is a plus, and I meet a lot of great people. You know, it's being out there in like the fields alone with like one or two other people, like you learn their like life history, and you just bond really easily. Like when you're working with the animals just outside, it just feels very primal in a way. It feels cool.
Yeah.
So I like that part of the community involvement with agriculture, and of course being outside. I met a lot of people, and me included, where you want to get healthier, and so you actually choose agriculture as that route because of you're waking up with the sun.
Oh yeah,
You're catching
man.
animals, you're in the dirt, and it's just
That's a good one.
great. It's like biohacking without intentionally trying, if that makes sense.
Right. Have you heard? You familiar with Brian Sanders, I presume? Brian Sanders from Food Life.
Brian
you know him,
Sanders?
right?
Yes.
So you're well familiar with him. And one thing that I love about what he said long time ago, I believe, about the term biohacking was that he didn't like that term, and I totally agree with him because it's like, yeah, like you don't really hack your biology. You kind of step into your biology, actually discover what it's capable of doing, and the potential that that you can that opens itself up to you when you kind of step into these ancestral things. And so he coins the term ancestral hacking. So much bigger fan of that. So that's kind of what you just described, like with the dirt, with the sun. I believe that's so powerful because nowadays we're so, I would even maybe say after having been in all these nutritional camps and having tried to familiarize myself with knowledge and information about nutrition and physiology, etc., I believe we're myopically over focused on the nutritional part of things, and this maybe ultimately results in people not paying enough attention to like all the other factors that you just mentioned, like sun, like being outside, like community. Like that's such a huge point. If you become so hyper focused on food, you kind of socially distance yourself from other people because you be the crazy guy that has his stupid ideas about nutrition and is not able to talk to other people because of that, because he only talks about nutrition. So that's kind of the difficulties that you run into if you only focus on that.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I remember that too. Brian talking about ancestral hacking with Ben Greenfield about that, and I thought Brian was spot on.
Exactly.
Because I don't like the idea of just like artificially manipulating hacking my biology. I'd rather just go back to the past in a way and do what I can like them. They proved that they knew what they were doing, so let's do what they're doing.
Yeah, I believe that's a good point with this going back. I mean, we don't necessarily need to exactly mimic the lifestyle of our ancestors. That's kind of impossible in the modernized world, and neither do we have to do that because there's lots of things that make our life better and easier in some sense. That's a good thing, I believe. So that we can get faster from point A to point B, or that we have better, like the thing we're doing right now, communicating over social media over huge distances. I mean, that would sound impossible to our ancestors. So I believe there are good things about civilization and technology, but there's something concerning our physiology which we cannot trick or just move around that. It's like we have to contend with that because it exists. Like it doesn't go away from now to then. It's not like technology which can appear and then disappear again. Like our biology, the way it functions and the way we have adapted ourselves to all these different environmental factors, it just stays, and we need to deal with that in a good way, I believe.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. And so I want to go back to the point of interacting with animals real quick, because I find that to be very important in the discussion that I find many have with vegans, because I believe they're extremely dissociated from that reality. And so what would you say are some lessons that you learned from your direct interactions with the animals and with nature itself? Because like when you're a vegan, you have no idea what's going on behind the scene, so to speak. So if you have this piece of meat, you just be like, oh yeah, you killed this animal. You're a stupid, evil, malevolent human being. You're, I don't know, condemned to hell, and there's nothing good about you. And I'm virtue signaling, and I'm vegan. I'm a good guy.
Wow. Yeah, I like that question. Having started out with agriculture and the more like vegetable side of it, like I can tell you, it's kind of ironic. You don't really take into consideration animal lives as much as you do livestock farming, in the sense like, at least from like, okay, let's say insects. They matter, of course, they're really important. When you're a vegetable farmer, you want to kill all of them. Like their lives just don't matter.
Oh really? Like that's
yes.
that's an important thing to tell, actually, because vegans be like, yeah, that's not intentional. Well, yes, it is intentional, because you actually intentionally kill them with pesticides. So by definition, it's intentional. So you want to kill them so that your vegetables can actually grow. So
yeah, you even like I worked on organic vegetable farms, and I mean, there's all these ways. It can even be manually. You kill thousands of insects with your hands, and
right.
snails.
Oh wow.
You them, and there could be like larger rodents, groundhogs, raccoons, possums, whatever, in the way, and you trap them. Some people choose like let them free, but they just keep coming back, and then ultimately you hire someone to shoot them, shoot deer, shoot the pests, and you don't care. You just you got to get that crop out. And it is really funny. Of course, with quite a few vegetarian, vegans, or whatever, and the vegetable side, and you kill a lot more animals doing that than you do livestock farming. Like you do. That's
a lot more animals. Yeah, I've read a study. I believe it was that I can't remember the exact question that it examined. So it was a comparison between, I don't know if it was 1 kilogram or like 1 pound of protein, or like just pure matter of food, but there was a comparison between kind of plant-based food that emerged from monocropping agriculture and just a regular piece of meat. And it'd be like, so there's a drastic difference when it comes to the number of animals killed during that process. And so there was a huge difference, which favoring the meat side.
Yeah.
So way more animals being killed in the monocropping agriculture, which is, kind of obvious, it just explained.
Yeah, I mean, I never quite honestly even worked on monocrop farms. These were always small, diverse farms, and you're still killing a lot.
And even there, you're killing a lot. But I mean, how did you include, like, as far, maybe you can tell me more, because I'm very much motivated to learn more about how the whole agriculture system works, because I'm living in a city. I'm living in Berlin, and here's like, you can see nothing from agriculture. You go into the supermarket, you buy a piece of meat, or you go to the butcher and you buy a piece of meat. But regardless, you don't have that connection established to nature and how animals are raised, how the plants are being raised. You just go there, grab that piece of food, put it in a basket, and buy it and eat it. Like there's no real connection being established. And so I'm wondering how animals, how plants can actually exist and grow without the interaction with animals. So I believe that's a difficult thing to establish, and so that's why you need all these pesticides and all these chemicals and all these other interventions.
Yeah, no, you're true. And adding fertilizers and artificial or synthetic fertilizers, organic too, I guess. But it's vegetable farming. It's a strange thing to me. Some people really do it right, but I personally feel that you need to have animals there. Animals and vegetables, I think, work cohesively when farming.
What kind of animals and plants work cohesively? They work together in harmony, right?
Yeah. Yes, with the whole grazing concept and the cow's manure just naturally fertilize the ground. And I know I've heard of some people here in Vermont, actually, they will graze sheep and then plant cabbage on previous grazing areas.
Oh, wow.
And so then the cabbage gets like amazing, and they make sauerkraut with the cabbage. And then
that's like the best sauerkraut I've ever eaten.
Oh yeah, it's great. And then once like the sauerkraut fields are like harvested, there's still some remnants left over, of course, and then the sheep eat that the next year. It's like amazing. Just that cycle is like what we need to be doing more of.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean by some do vegetable farming correctly? Like what do you think of doing vegetable farming correctly, other than doing it the way you think of it, in the correct version of it, like combining it with animals together? That would be, as far as I can tell, in your mind, the best way of farming, kind of. So, but other than that, like just any other ways to approaching that?
Oh wow, it's been a while since I've really been in the vegetable side. But I've still like kind of follow some friends that do it, and I'm really impressed with how they mulch. Mulch their gardens, and companion planting like tomatoes and basil to help counteract certain pests. And they've really done their research on how to just naturally let the garden, let the vegetable production do its thing without human intervention, and taking permaculture principles, of course, as well.
But to what extent are you able to like to grow a sufficient amount of whatever you're wanting to grow on that field without real human intervention? So what's that?
Wow, I don't know. There's I'm not sure how familiar you are with permaculture.
With what?
But
What's that?
Permaculture. Have you heard of that term before?
No, I haven't really. So if you would just, just real quick explain what it means and what it represents.
It was created or popularized by a guy named Bill Mollison. I believe that he was in New Zealand, Australia, somewhere around there. And permaculture is literally like permanent agriculture, where you work alongside nature and you just let you kind of coerce the native environment into working in a way that's going to be beneficial to you. So sure, you might plant some fruit and trees and some perennials, so they come back year after year. And yeah, you release some, or you have some livestock, so like pigs especially. Well, yeah, and that will. I think that's the best, but I know people that are really into that, and so that's what I would think is the best. So,
but still, there's probably way more benefits to doing the combination thing where you just have animals and plants together. And then how would you do that? Like, do you have like, how it is in your case? Like, tell me about what exactly you have on your farm. Do you have just animals? Is that what you focus on, or do you also grow some plants, or is it just the plants that the animals need to eat and survive?
Yeah, I mean, currently we just have animals, and they're grass-fed, grass-finished beef, so they get all that right there. And we feed the pigs and the poultry, special like non-GMO feed. and we more or less kind of have to for production reasons. And but they're on grass. They're still outside every day. So they're still eating grass and insects as well. Yeah.
The chicken. Is it the chicken?
Yes, the chicken
Yeah.
and the pig. Yeah.
And the pig.
And the turkey. Yeah.
Yeah. Like what I find it interesting about the chicken because what are they usually being fed? Is it like grains? And aren't they like omnivores?
Yeah, they are very omnivorous.
Yeah.
But I must say, like a laying hen, an egg laying hen, their favorite food has got to be meat.
Is it like worms and insects or like legit
no,
like
like
piece of meat?
If you accidentally run over another laying hen with a tractor or a truck and it's like injured, they will eat it alive.
Oh
until
boy.
It's insane. Like they go crazy over like other hens or eggs.
Yeah.
It's wild. So I would, yeah, of course they still do eat grain.
Sure.
But that's, yeah, for production reasons and to increase their egg yield. Apparently you just need that. So that's where.
And okay, so when did you decide to transition? Was it when did you decide to transition from vegetable agriculture and plant agriculture to animal agriculture? Was it at the same time when you made the transition from plant-based to animal-based, or did it happen after that? What came first?
You know, I was in college at the University of Maryland when I finally just had I was in my rope with the sickness, and I was still studying like plant agriculture or horticulture then, and I had to get out of school and like take time off to get better, which took a while, but eventually I got there, and once I felt good enough to like farm again, I decided like I wanted to do animal agriculture. So I moved to Georgia actually for an internship. White Oak Pastures. I'm not sure if you're
I've heard of them.
Yeah, it's super popular livestock farm in the U.S. And I don't know if it's like the biggest necessarily, like organic pasture-raised livestock farm. I don't know the statistics, but they have over 10 different livestock species and like over thousands of cows. It's incredible. So that's where my real introduction began. That was 2 years ago to livestock. So
wow,
it was great.
So yeah, let's maybe talk about your diet transitions that you made, because so you started off. How did it begin? Like you somehow entered the health nutrition space, and as probably anyone else, and me too, you've been confronted. First thing you've been confronted with is the widespread, indisputable knowledge of vegetables are great, meat is horrible, and you should eat as much of vegetables and plants as possible, and just avoid meat, and then you'll be good.
Yeah, I guess realistically, my interest in health and nutrition goes all the way back when I was like 11.
Why was that the case with 11? Like usually, what do 11-year-old kids do? I mean, no one cares about what you eat. It's like, give me some pizza and some pasta and I'm happy. When I'm 11.
It's funny. Like I was in 5th grade and I was just tired of being like the biggest kid. So I decided from the summer break between 5th and 6th grade that I was just going to lose weight. So I actually lost 20 pounds then, which was easy. Just doing what was like healthy. Skim milk, whole grain, cereal, fruit, vegetables, whatever. And I mean, of course it worked. I was 11.
Well, sure. If you just cut out some of the processed shit that you were eating, then it works. And you're probably moving more, and I don't know.
Yeah, so, I mean, I gave up soda back then too. I haven't had soda since I was like 10 or 11.
Right, and you like probably gave up 500 calories worth of soda. So surprised you lost some weight.
Yeah,
drinking soda and moved more and ate some more whole foods. I lost weight. Yeah, that's veganism at play, sure.
That's pretty much what happened. And so went through middle school just kind of liking it. Learned more, want to get stronger, and so I went to like protein powders and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Still eating like being like the healthier kid, and followed that all the way through high school. Got into like paleo and low carb when I was a junior.
Okay.
So 17 years old in high school, 17, 18. But once I graduated high school, that's where things kind of went south for me. Um, so
Beautiful
yeah,
way to to uh to you I forgot the word, but to say it better than it actually was. Things going
yeah,
south. Nice one.
pretty much. Um, yeah, after high school, I kind of just separate. I guess I could kind of like separate like my friends and my um everyone that I just hung out with, and just
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, nothing intentional, but like I just didn't have that structure of school really. And so I felt lost. Ultimately, I felt very lost after college. I mean, high school graduation, and I was just looking for purpose, and I stumbled
Mm-hmm.
upon veganism. I was already super fit
Oh.
and healthy and strong. I had probably 11 years of perfect attendance in school, so I was like really into health.
Why was it that you felt lost? Like what did give you that feeling? Because I mean, it's a classical phenomena in like athletes that strive for something specific and they only have that one specific goal in mind. Then they reach that state, that place, and they find themselves in a lost place, as you described, where they don't know what else to do. Like they'd be like, okay, so I did that, and now I've I don't really know what comes next. And so but what was it in your case that triggered that feeling?
That's a good question.
Mm.
I think realistically, it's just not having that structure, that
Hmm.
set structure of school. Now I was just off on my own. Um,
That gives you kind of a guidance as to like kind of what to do in life, what comes now, what comes next, what to do, what comes tomorrow, and you to give you some uh borders, if you will, where to act in. And so now that's interesting because that's so funny because you were in a place where you had too much freedom to be like do whatever you want and you felt lost.
oh, that's exactly it. Like I just graduated, like sweet, I can do whatever I want. But I was like,
Right.
oh
And
wait,
now you're lost. That's so cool.
yeah,
Did you do you are you familiar with you're probably familiar with Jordan Peterson? I love him. I
yep.
really like him a lot. Like I listened I've been binge listening to Jordan Peterson for the past like couple of months. It's really a rabbit hole and it's been really cool listening to him. But one example that he was bringing up once in a conversation, I believe it was with Joe Rogan or someone else, I'm not quite sure, was exactly that problem that if you open up these borders of freedom too much and you don't constrain it enough, then you exactly find yourself in that place of being lost because you don't have enough structure that guides you through life. And so he he said the following thing. He'd be like, okay, let me give you an example. And then he said to it was Joe Rogan. He said to him, let's play a game. And then Joe Rogan said, okay, let's do it. And then Jordan said, so you move first. And Joe Rogan was confused and he did nothing. And so the idea was telling you to play a game without setting up any rules. It'd be like you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Ultimate freedom. And you're lost. You don't know what to do if you have ultimate freedom. That was fun. So you need some structure, some rules, some system that guides you through life so that you actually have a plan and that gives you an idea of what comes next and what you can ultimately do and reach. So that's a nice story.
Yeah, that's very well said. I
Mm-hmm.
agree. And I mean, I had a job which was nice, but I had been doing that, geez, like for 4 years by this point, so I just wasn't really getting anywhere with it. And I
Mm-hmm.
was the only one working there. It was a car wash. My uncle's car wash was the only guy working there, so it's at a time, and so it's just like kind of felt very lonely. Never just didn't really reach out to anyone, and but yeah, one day I just kind of stumbled upon this vegan magazine,
Mhm.
Thrive, it's called. I don't know if
Mhm.
it's still around, but and like these people, like they convinced me. They really got in my head. Like all these athletes, musicians,
Right.
and
Which
they
idea
got.
convinced you the most? Was it the ethical side? Was it the alleged um what's that promise and proposition that you can reach higher whatever states, like physical states, moral states, everything? It's like you'll be enlightened, you'll be the best human alive, you'll be stronger, you'll be faster, you'll be morally superior to everyone else because you actually do it through means of not killing other animals and stuff. So what of the whole vegan message, like a whole concert of different things? It's not just you abstain from eating meat. That's like one tiny part of it. There's like much more to that. So what do you think was most attractive to you? Or was it the fact
That's
that you lacked some structure and I don't know, and it gave you, I don't know, a purpose or something to follow? Like, yes, I can finally I can follow something. I was lost and now I have a reason to to go on with life.
it's actually just that.
Okay.
I use by that point I was just using like my interest in nutrition and health, kind of to like that was me. Like my interest in nutrition and health throughout my whole school. Like I was known for that, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I made friends. And
Oh.
I had a kind of core group of guys. We were all interested in fitness, and like I was definitely most interested in nutrition, and I
Mm-hmm.
kind of just lost that. And seeing in the magazines and in the forums or whatever from the vegan side how all those promises and like the community, I think the community involvement within it and the
Mm.
promises is what I was yearning for the most. It just really seemed like this holy thing, and like so it's weird, it's very strange,
It's
but it
weird
got
if
it.
you think back, probably. It's kind of, yeah, I was, what's a good word? I was like uh deceived to some degree, or I don't know, like persuaded by this message, and I didn't know any way to deal with it other than, I mean, you gave it a go, and that's probably a good thing. Like, I don't want to make it sound bad or make it sound as if it was a mistake, because probably you would not be at the place that you arrived now without having gone through this period and whatever else you experience along the way.
Yeah. So I wish I didn't do it, of course. But it did help me get here ultimately, which I'm very
Right,
grateful.
right, right. And so you discovered veganism and you decided to give it a try, and then tell us how it went. Like, did you just got rid of animal products, or did you actively tried to make it as healthy as possible? Did you have any junk food? Like, tell me how your diet was structured and how your lifestyle maybe also changed, because some vegans, they'd be like completely crazy not only about food, but they wouldn't use any, I don't know, they would focus on also using vegan shampoos and vegan this and vegan that. So how was your life? How did it change after discovering that?
I was always whole foods, plant based. I never ate the vegan junk food. I just never did that. I thought that was horrible,
Okay.
and I still do. And so I, I'm sorry. Hmm. What was the question again?
The question
I
the question was, how was your diet structured? How did your lifestyle
oh
change overall?
yes, I
Did you like take any supplements? That would be another question.
yeah, I took no supplements. It was always like lentils or legumes and grains. Just buying whole foods from like the bulk bins,
Right.
preparing all my foods, never going to restaurants. Um, and yeah, volunteering at like food co-ops, vegetarian food co-ops, and
Mm-hmm.
really like my it became an obsession, quite
Wow.
honestly. It controlled my whole life. Like there was nothing else but procuring food. It was weird. So it changed my life. You know, it changed my buying habits. I would go dumpster diving at like midnight, and I would just like train myself to wake up at times when the workers left the health food stores, so I could like go in their compost bins and like take a bunch of kale and bananas.
No way.
It was pretty creative.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean it ruined my college career for sure. Like I think I said I got at least 10 years of perfect attendance by the time I graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
That is like, you know, never missing a day for at least 10 years of school. And then my first semester out of high school, I mean, or my first year out of high school, I dropped out of like at least 4 different programs because
Wow.
I couldn't mentally and physically function.
So
And
was it really, did you have like what was the symptoms that you experienced, and how long did it take you how long did it take in order for you to experience these changes? Because I have a friend who also was vegan. He's quite young. He's like my age, maybe a bit older, like 20 something. And it took him a couple of months and his health started deteriorating. And he's a young guy, and you might think, so young people, it will take them much longer, and they could, you know, they could they could they could actually, they could basically struggle through these, the body could deal with that, so to speak. And so maybe for older people it could manifest itself earlier, and you, I don't know what, but for him it was like a couple months. And I have another friend who did it for, I don't know, 10 years or so, and then she quit. And she also didn't feel particularly bad, it's just she quit for some reason. So I've many people I know who quit. But how long did it take for you in order to see these changes?
yeah, the negative changes, I mean, they happen almost immediately. um,
Wow.
and yeah, because in my senior year of high school, I was gradually taking out like red meat and pork and just focusing on like chicken and fish,
Okay.
and then fruits and vegetables. I got really strict, and like almonds, and like that was really it.
Wow.
Because I learned in high school like the evils of like beef and pork production, so like I kind of just stopped eating that for a little bit. But after high school, once I gave veganism a shot and just got rid of it immediately, yeah, I mean, you could definitely see the differences, like weight loss and not a lot of energy, fatigue, brain fog. I mean, it was pretty immediate, and I just kept going with it. I was just so convinced, like, this is what I got to do. It was really like
Wow.
culty. So
Wow.
I just pushed through it. Even I ignored all the signs. I ignored everyone just telling me to stop. I just kept plowing through it. It was horrible.
Did really everyone told you to stop?
Yeah, my mom.
Wow. She
She
knew it
did.
was wrong.
What
How
was
about
that?
your peers? How about your peers?
Yeah. So I honestly, I didn't hang out with them. I didn't contact them. It was just I lost track of them. I mean, I'm connected with them now, fortunately, now that I'm sane. But
Hmm?
I lost track of them. Which
Are you more of an extroverted person or an introverted person? How would you describe yourself?
probably, oh wow, probably introverted. And
Introverted. Because the
yeah,
question would be how much did you suffer from um kind of not seeing your peers that much and hyper focusing on what you're currently doing. I mean, for someone who is fundamentally extroverted, that might turn out to be a huge problem because the person will lose this sense of community, which we all need, obviously, but the extroverts need it more perhaps than the introverts. And so, was it a problem for you if you look back now?
yeah. I mean, I hated the loneliness for sure, but I just thought
Wow. Okay.
I it was just so weird. Like I had the power to change that, but I just didn't. For I don't know why. I think I was just brainwashed, and also just it's interesting when you're malnourished. You, you just don't you just don't think the same. You're a
Yeah.
zombie. And it's hard to get out of that.
Yeah,
You
it
just
is.
all you think about is just food, and you just
Oh wow.
in weird ways, and like you just look at pictures all day of the food, and just constantly read about it when you're starving. And I was starving, like no one's life mattered really by that point, and I was just so focused on me. It was pretty selfish, but yeah, it was weird. So
Man, it's that. Yeah, that sounds pretty intense.
yeah, it was.
So you said you were thinking about food all the time, and I mean, in which sense? Because when I entered the nutrition and health space, I was also kind of thinking about food all the time, but not because I was hungry, but because I found that topic and that field to be so mind-bogglingly fascinating. I was trying to get my hands on every podcast available and to learn as much as possible in as little time as possible, as efficiently as possible, listening to every podcast available, like trying to use every piece of spare time that I had and to listen to a podcast and combine activities to listen to a podcast while doing that activity. So it's been like, okay, so I was also thinking about food and nutrition all the time, but not because I was starving. I was feeling actually pretty good. So how did it manifest itself?
I know what you mean by that. In
Right.
my case, because that's kind of what I do now, but it's not like
Right.
I feel bad about it. I'm just sincerely interested
Mm-hmm.
in it, nutrition and food and diet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, though, it was being in the starved state, you'll spend your days just staring at pictures of food, reorganizing your fridge. Like I
Oh
would go
wow.
to before going to bed, I would open my fridge and just kind of look at it for like half an hour, organize it, and form all these weird OCD tendencies. Or constantly organizing my food, constantly readjusting it, looking at it. Um,
And probably also in your mind, like how would you combine them? What would you eat now in 2 minutes, in 10 minutes, in 20 minutes, and an hour? And what would you do tomorrow? And what need to buy? And I don't know, all these weird things.
yeah, and I was hostile towards food, like food aggressive, like an animal. And just aggressive over it, and like
Wow.
nasty to others who didn't.
Others.
Yeah, oh yeah, like if you weren't vegan and holy like
Man.
me, like I don't like you. And
It's like the most peculiar thing. It's like these vegans are they claim to be the most compassionate human beings alive because they care for the animals. But that's such a fascinating idea because compassion has a very dark side. And an example is uh like any female animal. It is extremely compassionate towards its kids, but it will tear you into pieces if you come too close to her kids. Brutal. She's brutal to you. Like if she doesn't like you, she'll kill you. And so now look at these vegans. They come to be extremely compassionate, and the more compassionate you are, and the more you care for someone, you really need to ask yourself what part of it is a very deep hate towards those who can be accused for causing the suffering of the animals you care for. So you don't like these people who you think caused their suffering. The question is that the case? And the other question is, okay, so what does that mean? That means they can be extremely hostile and aggressive, and as you said, and um, yeah, so it's a very dangerous thing to realize about the human uh, nature.
oh yeah, and I I don't know if you've heard of the Minnesota starvation
Hmm.
experiment.
I think it was conducted by Ansel Keys too.
Yeah, so
Right.
he did that in like 1944, 1945, and that I think his findings were very similar to what I was experiencing.
Hmm.
Um, like I was actually in 2016, I was diagnosed with anorexia,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, we didn't talk more about that. But like it was weird to me because I never really meant to restrict myself because I thought I was like fat or anything by that point. I didn't really see in the mirror like someone that was really big or anything like that. I was addicted to starving, and it's so weird. It's
in what sense? Like, did you implement a fasting regimen with your vegan diet? Or what do you mean by addicted to starving? Did you constantly abstain from eating food, or was it just the reality of being vegan led you to being in a constantly in a state of constant starvation because you just weren't eating enough calories?
yeah, that vicious cycle of what I was doing was probably
Mm-hmm.
caloric restriction for periods of time. Like I was 20 years old. I'm 6 feet tall, but like
Mm-hmm.
most days I wasn't eating 1,500 calories. There's no way. And there was
Fifteen
all
hundred.
like no way I was eating really probably around 1,200 calories I was eating a day
1,200.
for like
Man.
for weeks
Wow.
on it. And then I would
Wow.
like say I want to like
Wow.
change my life, and then I eat a ton of walnuts and then regret it, and it doesn't
Yeah.
help. But anyways, yeah, it's a weird cycle to be in, that fight or flight feeling,
Wow.
and you don't know what to do really. At least I didn't know what to do. I was just stuck,
Mm.
and because I was so pressed on veganism's the way, caloric restriction, fasting. I did like some 24-hour fast as well. Did a lot
Wow.
of cardio. Like I
Sure.
I really like I did everything they told me to do. I
Yeah,
I was just I
of
was yearning
course.
for that structure and that discipline that I felt like I lost after high school, and I just went down all these wrong rabbit holes.
Mm.
And yeah, I
What was
just
your weight back then? So we're 6'0", and then
yeah.
what was your
So
weight?
yeah, I'm actually around like 6'1". The lowest weight
6'1".
I've ever gotten to was
Mm-hmm.
121 pounds.
Oh, Jesus.
So I don't know what that is in like kilos or anything.
Well, that would be something around 50. Would be definitely be less than 60 kilograms. And I'm not quite sure what 6.61 is in centimeters, but it is like
Yeah,
average height.
yeah, I'm pretty much average height. So
So
like
okay, so
six,
an average height in centimeters like 180, and you were below 60 kilograms. So that's yeah, that's enormously malnourished for sure.
yeah, it was really bad. I'm around 180, 185 right now.
Hmm.
So that's
Oh
normal
yeah.
weight for me
Hmm.
right now. So I feel good there. But yeah, I made it to like 120, 125 was where I was fluctuating
Hmm.
most days before going to an eating disorder psychiatric unit. Um,
Was it that anorexic story?
yeah. So
Oh,
I
tell,
was,
tell me about that.
yeah. Oh God. So I was 20, and this was in
Okay.
2016. I finished my first semester of University of Maryland,
Mm.
and I was I was just drilling myself into the ground, like uh, caloric restriction, fasting, veganism, biking, running, and
But again, you did that not because you thought you were fat and you and that you had to lose weight, but you just you were just convinced that that's the right way to go,
yeah,
right?
definitely for sure.
Hmm.
And you get this kind of high feeling. I've actually never done drugs or
Hmm.
drank alcohol or anything, and so like
Oh, that's
that
cool.
was how I got my high, because it's just
Wow.
you're constantly buzzed, and it's so
And
strange thinking back on it.
hmm.
Um, but no, like my mom just took me one day. I had no clue what I was getting myself into, but she took me to Johns Hopkins Hospital. It's a
Okay.
super popular hospital in the U.S. And they have one like the most well-known psychiatric units as well,
Wow. Okay.
U.S. And I had no clue. I thought I was going to go there for blood work, but it turns out I stayed in the hospital for like 10 to 11 weeks. Um,
Wow. So
yeah,
it
it was
wasn't just like a couple of days. You stayed there for actually a couple of months.
yeah. For
Man.
close to 2 months, I was I was in the hospital, and it was horrible. Like, that was a life-changing experience for sure. I put on 40 pounds
Ooh.
there, and yeah, basically what they do is it's just a lot of force feeding of the standard American diet. Quite honestly, hospital food, it's horrible.
It's
Uh,
definitely horrible. Yeah, I had some
it's
experience
some-
with that during the medical studies. Like I had to spend some time in the hospital and work with patients, and hospital food is like worst thing you can imagine. They really try to minimize the amount of processed stuff, but it doesn't work still. Like they eat everything that is part of the standard American diet or standard European diet. It's like all the same.
yeah, it's wild. Like, I can't believe a hospital has like the worst food in America, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I stayed there, and it was very militant. Like, you couldn't go outside, you couldn't walk, you had to sit.
Oh,
Um, and structured meals like 8 a.m., 12 p.m., 5 p.m., certain categories of food and like certain ratios. It was very specific. And if you didn't, like, you get in trouble. And like, it was brutal. And yeah, I did that for 2 months, got super fat and from their stuff. And
did you
yeah,
take anything away from it as far as your eating disorder was? Oh, if you could call that an eating disorder, but as far as the way you think about food and your interact with food, as far as that is concerned, did anything change after these 2 months, or did
it's
you
funny.
continue the vegan lifestyle after that?
That's funny. I actually, granted, they said like you probably shouldn't think about vegetarianism or veganism. It's probably not a good idea. That's what they said.
Mm,
But like 60% of the diet was carbs and like very little
mm,
meat,
mm.
and everything. And so I actually, and they considered beans to be a protein source and
Ooh,
just as
sure.
similar as meat. So they like convinced me basically like black beans are just as great as beef. Like, they
Oh
will tell
man.
you black beans are just as good as beef. And I'm like, this is, I mean, well, now I can say like this is ridiculous, but back then I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I ultimately, though, like, I left just as a major carb addict for sure.
Mm.
Constant sugar, and like, so I guess, yeah, sure, I went kind of back to the veganism, vegetarianism route, but I ate a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I wasn't afraid to eat more. I didn't do caloric restriction or fasting anymore. So that did change.
Okay.
Um, but I ate really big meals, and I lost almost all the weight again really quickly, and it was
Okay.
weird. Um, like, how could this be? I'm eating like 3 times as much as I did before going to Hopkins, and within like, I don't know, 9 months or so, like, yeah, I was in the 130 pounds. So like, I left Hopkins at 160,
Yeah.
162, and I was in like 135 not too long after.
Wow.
Um, and
Uh,
yeah, so
That's nuts.
yeah, it was crazy.
Crazy thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Like and like it's I think about all these folks that just try to hammer home that idea that it's all about like almost all of the benefits in terms of health transformation and I don't know, improvement in certain disease outcomes comes about through caloric restriction and losing weight. And so, yeah, that might hold true for kind of majority of the population if you just look at these chronic diseases, and if you lose weight, certainly certain things improve. So yeah, sure. But then look at all these stories, and you're not an exception to that. It's kind of what many people that go through this period experience. They lose a ton of weight, they get sick as hell. It's like, can you think of anything worse than that? Anything more comical than that in that sense? Because it's kind of the exact opposite of what we think. You do cardio, you lose a ton of weight, but you still you become malnourished. You lose maybe too much weight, and you experience more detrimental health effects than you would if you maybe even gained some weight. And so that happens to you, and you were better probably, and then you lost that weight, and you were worse off again.
Yeah, and you know, I feel that I lost weight ultimately not because of the caloric restriction, because I was eating a lot. Technically, I was eating probably what all the calories that I needed, but it being predominantly plant, almost always plant-based, it just destroyed my gut and I couldn't retain it.
Right, right. That's kind of the next question. How much do you actually consume and how
Yeah,
much ends up in your cells? Because your cells don't care about the number of calories that enters your mouth. Your cells, they can only detect, they have certain systems of detecting energy. It's like you produce ATP, for example, if you have enough energy available, so kind of the energy currency that you're probably familiar with, ATP that everyone talks about. And now if you are in a deficit and your cells are starving for energy, then you have less ATP and you have more ADP. ADP is kind of what results in burning ATP. So you use that ATP in order to do certain cellular functions, and the consequence is an increase in ADP. And so that signals an energy deficit. And so it doesn't really matter how much you ate. What matters is how much ends up in your cells. And if almost nothing gets absorbed, then like we end up with a calorie deficit, even though you ate a lot of food.
yeah, and the whole bioavailability of the plant
Mm-hmm.
matter is huge. I'm sure you're familiar with anti-nutrients, and
Sure.
I think my biggest thing was the phytates and grains and legumes. Looking back on it, and I think those just blocked the protein absorption, iron absorption that I needed, and destroyed my the gut lining of my gut, and I just couldn't absorb any nutrients, and that it's interesting. I got to the point where it seemed like the more I ate, the more I lost. It
Ooh.
was weird, and so that's a scary place to be. And it's like you want to
Man.
stay vegan, and like they just you. I got to the point where like every day I was like, okay, how do you gain weight as a vegan? And they just like keep eating more walnuts, keep eating more almonds, and keep
Keep
eating
eating
more.
more of the stuff that we haven't been eating over the course of evolution in these large quantities. Just keep eating more of them. Great,
It was
great, great
so,
concept.
and it was so weird because like I would, and I would get really bloated, but then I would probably lose weight. It took more out of me than it gave me, and I was in that cycle for a while, and then ended up like in 2018, I ended up at a naturopathic doctor
Okay.
uh, because I actually got too low weight again.
Wow.
Almost 2 years after uh, the hospitalization at Hopkins, I got too low weight again, and so we found this naturopathic doctor. I went to her. She found I had Lyme disease.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that?
Yeah, like vaguely, but I've heard of
It's
it.
big in the U.S. It's like it comes from ticks. Like if a tick bites you and you get like this serious disease, an autoimmune disease, and I don't know. So she
Mm.
found out that I had that, and probably had that for like 10 years, just undiagnosed. And I could trace it back that so that
Mhm.
acted as that alongside the veganism honestly destroyed me the most because I had these gut parasites in me that just ate up all the carbs, and that's why I actually really couldn't retain veganism even more. So it's just a double whammy to my body.
Yeah.
And
And maybe
yeah,
like the more you ate, the more you fed them, and then they multiplied and they grew and they ate even more, and you lost more weight and whatever, kind of that horrible,
exactly.
vicious cycle.
Yeah. So like
Right.
it was at that point where I realized that I needed to eat more meat again, and um, after the antibiotic treatment um, for the Lyme disease, I was really emaciated, back to like 121 pounds, and um, just kind of trying everything to get better. And that's how I found out carnivore, and ultimately what worked for me most. So yeah,
Wow. Man,
yeah,
so you went through this health journey by experiencing all these destructive uh things yourself, like not by just the way I did it, just exploring all camps, which is also a great way to do it because you don't really need to suffer yourself. But if you're willing to do that, then okay, more power to you. And so you did that, and you went through that process. And then you ultimately ended up at, what is it? What are you doing now? Are you eating only meat, or do you add any plants?
Pretty much. Wow, for almost 4 years now, like it's been predominantly meat. I every now and then, like I will bring in like sauerkraut or kimchi, fermented vegetables. That's like all I do in like the plant kingdom. It's fermented vegetables. It's just the easiest for me to digest, and I do that every now and then. I don't feel like I need them, but I will include them if it's there, if I want it. Sure, cool, no big deal.
Right, like no need to be particularly dogmatic about the way you eat. Like there's no like then you would just repeat the same thing that the vegans do, just on the meat side of things, and so you'll be no better than them. So what's the point of doing that?
Yeah, and I've experimented with various like kinds of carnivore, if you can say that, various meats, and I ultimately like what I'm doing the past few months. I've been eating like a lot more raw meat right now, and like that's good. It's been really energizing for sure. But what I have noticed is within like the raw meat community, which is funny to say, there's a lot of zealots there. Just like
there's
vegan.
There's zealots to be found in every dogmatic community, like in the carnivore community, everywhere. And it's really funny. It's so comical. It's so interesting to watch them from the outside. All of them. It's like I've tried to explore every territory in every camp. Be like, okay, so let me see what the plant-based folks have to say. Okay, so that's interesting. And then let me try some of these. Let me try out some of the concepts that they preach. Let me add more vegetables. Okay, so it didn't really work. Okay, so what's the next thing? Low carb. Okay, so what do they say? Oh, so carbs are bad. Okay, let me try that out. Well, funny. What's next? So we have these extremely crazy dudes, the carnivore guys. They eat only meat. So that sounds silly. That sounds interesting. Let me check them out. And so maybe they also have some wisdom to share. Well, sure they do. They tell me that meat isn't bad. Great stuff. They also tell me plants are killing me. Well, that sounds also a bit nonsensical. Well, let's get back to the middle and see what we can kind of combine in terms of what's the most crucial thing to remember from all of these camps, and also laugh at all the stupid zealots that just try to be the ones that believe that they are right about everything and everyone else is wrong. That's so funny to watch.
Yeah, I don't get it. And again, like with a lot of people that I follow, like on the Instagram or whatever, that like the raw carnivore, like the Raw Primal Diet, it's called. It's very specific, like with like autogenous founder planets, if you're familiar with that name. And oh my gosh, like people get so crazy, like they're like cooked meat, cooked food's gonna kill you. I'm like, not necessarily. Like
that's stupid. Like that's stupid going so far on one side and be like, this kills you, especially if it's a natural food. Like I don't like that idea. I really don't. That's why I'm against. Well, that's why I'm against. I'm opposed to the idea of veganism. They'd be like, okay, meat kills you. It's like, no, it's a damn natural food. It doesn't kill you probably. So then you have the ketogenic zealots. They'd be like, every natural carb source is evil. It's be like fruit is evil. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like we have taste buds for glucose, and we like it. If it was really killing us, that would be evolutionary so stupid. We would develop a taste bud for something that is killing us. Imagine you've got a specialized taste bud for cocaine. Like imagine that. That'd be like the most stupid thing on earth.
Yeah.
Why'd you have that? It would kill you immediately. You would love cocaine, and you do to some degree, but you don't seek it out. And you seek out sugar and sweet stuff because you like it. And so maybe there definitely is some downside to eating too much of it. But it's like every time that these people try to paint one food group as being the most evil one, you should abstain from all these foods because they are going to kill you. Like that's where you should try to distance yourself from that a bit and try to ask the question whether that's really the case and what the people are actually up to.
Yeah, I just think it's a shame
Mm-hmm.
to see. I don't know why people insist on being like so dogmatic about it. Like I used to be there. I used to be that person, but now I'm just happy. Like, you know, I feel good eating the way I do, and like that's about it. Like I don't ask anyone to tell anyone to do what I do. But I think some people just have to like learn the hard way. Like, hey, you can't talk to other people like that, and like, you know, you'll get yourself like and hurt. Like you'll get your health hurt. You know, and
Mm.
just not worth it. So
Yeah, it's a hard
yeah,
question. It's a hard question. Why do people get dogmatic about things? I had an interesting discussion with a friend about whether and I still I still believe that's true to some degree, that it's to some part an inevitability to to kind of believe in something. And I believe we need that to have some belief structure because we need a belief system. Like, how else are you going to act in the world? You need something that your actions are based on that gives you the guidance to do whatever you want to do, to make decisions, basically. So you need to value certain things over others. Otherwise, you will not be able to make a decision because what is a decision? You think the thing you decide to do is it's more worth pursuing than whatever else you could do in that moment. And that's why you do it and why you make the decision. So we need some value structure and some belief system. And now it's kind of your it's now your turn to choose which one you pick from the existing belief structures there are. And I had an interesting discussion whether moving away from religion predisposes you towards falling prey to all these other what would you say, to all these other ideologies that provide you with that belief structure to make it easier for you to act in the world, because that's what veganism does. It tells you what to do, it tells you what to eat, who to talk to, what to wear, what to watch, what to think about. It tells you everything. It's great. It's great.
yeah,
What are your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
I guess that it's just a reaction to modernization. I think we just, yeah, I feel like back in the day, like many hundreds of years ago, everyone
Mm-hmm.
just, we had more of a purpose, and you know, we had families, we had communities. We didn't have to look for ways to stand out or to belong. It just
Yeah.
occurred naturally with our life, with our lifestyles, I mean. And now with people living more separately, separate lives, and like social media and internet, I think like that's kind of what's been the catalyst of
Mm-hmm.
nutrition dogma.
Mm.
A lot of people are just lost, and the nutrition is everyone has to eat. It's just an easy thing to control and be religious about.
And then you can expand that to other areas as well,
Exactly. So, yeah, the
right?
vegan. So that's what you said. Yeah, yeah. That's like what you wear and don't wear
Everything.
and stuff like that. It's fascinating.
Mm.
But I
Oh
think
yeah,
it
it
is.
is.
I think it's a result of like modernization and
Mm-hmm.
people having that primal desire to belong. But
Mm-hmm.
the way we've shaped the world today, it's hard to find that sense of natural belonging within communities. So we just create ones.
Right, right. And what do you think is the yeah, that's a hard question because what do you think now is the solution to that? Like it's a fundamental problem because we need to belong, as you say. So I also think that it's inevitable that we need that, and it's and we need some sort of community. Like I believe that's self-evident. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived evolution if it wasn't for peers and for people and for community and groups. So what do you think is the way out of that dilemma?
Yeah, I realistically I don't think that we will ever get out of it. I think okay, well actually I like for instance, I like what Brian is doing, Brian Sanders, with food. How he says camp, no camp. That's perfect.
Right. That's perfect.
It really, I think, now that we've done such a great job at spreading dogma everywhere, I think it's up to people who want to still be healthy and who are interested in nutrition but don't want to spread the dogma to kind of spread that word, if that makes sense, and like be open-minded to everything, like what Brian does. And say, like, you really shouldn't be dogmatic, and here's why. And like, I think that's a good way to go about it. Using social media to your advantage, with spreading the non-dogma word. And so, yeah, like I think that's just the best way out. If more people would do that, just kind of listen, kind of say, this works for me, but it's not the only way to be healthy, kind of thing. That's what I try to do. Like, yeah, like I thrive on pretty much just meat, but I understand that, like, I personally don't think it's what everyone should be doing. I ended up here through all my weird health history, and I think meat is integral to our biology, but I don't think that everyone needs to be eating like 100% meat all the time.
Right.
I do, but like, so I try, like, with who I talk to and, how I go about social media, just kind of saying, like, you really don't need to, like, this isn't like what you have to do. Just listen to your body, kind of thing. And I would love to see more people talking about that. So
it's not, it's less appealing, though, I believe. It's less attractive.
Yes, very much.
It's so much less attractive because it doesn't, and I can tell you why. Because it doesn't give people a clear path and a clear guidance in terms of what exact steps to take next. It's like, do what's good. Cool. Thanks for this great piece of advice. Like, tell me something more precise. And it's like, okay, don't eat meat. Okay, thanks. That was precise. Eat only meat. Thanks. That was also precise. Don't do that. Do that. And so that's kind of the question I'm wrestling with, because it's like, yeah, being not dogmatic is a good message. Now, I believe it's close to impossible to truly, like, on a fundamental level, implement that, because you can't be not dogmatic, because you need to make value judgment on the decisions you make. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to make decisions. No, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I agree 100%. It is unfortunate, like, it's not as attractive to be non-biased, and it's more cool to be restrictive or like strict guidelines, and I think that's just human nature. We want to just be told what to do and then do it. But yeah, it just requires that people that get it, so to speak, to really spread the word and lead by example. Like, hey, this is what I'm doing to excel in life. And I'm proving it. I'm not just being dogmatic about it, but I'm proving that this is helping me excel mentally and physically. And that's it. Not saying like this is what you have to do. This is, the natural human diet, so to speak, and all that. And I don't know. But that's
the whole natural human diet is also an interesting argument, because that's not necessarily a valid argument to make, because that would mean almost everything, you could eat almost everything, and that's also true, because almost everything was part of our natural human diet, and that was basically proven by Weston Price and his work, that he traveled around the world and saw that, oh wow, cool, all these cultures have completely different ways of acquiring food, and different constituents of the constituents of their diet. They varied dramatically depending on their locations and the seasonality and whatever else determined what they're going to eat today. So that was an interesting observation to make. And so that's why it's hard to say this is the natural human diet. You can make certain broad statements. It's like, okay, processed food are not part of the natural human diet. Great. one step closer towards, something approximating a set of rules. It's like, don't eat processed foods. Maybe that's kind of the only rule that you can put forward. Maybe also eat animal foods. I believe that's a good rule, because we see if that doesn't happen, then it leads to horrible outcomes. So
Yeah. I think the Weston A. Price Foundation does it best. I think they have like 10 or 11 food principles, and so that's great because that leads the person to like deciding for themselves what to do within like a good framework. The whole like soaking and sprouting like grains and legumes if you want them. Like they say, like if you want it, like do it. The main rule is like you really should be eating animal products. And you should not be vegan. Like that. Those are their 2 hard set rules. Like please just.
Yeah. I believe that's a good rule. Oh, that's a nice rule. The first rule is don't eat processed food. Second rule, don't be vegan. And the rest is like do whatever you want. Eat as many animal products as you want, but eat them. It's a great rule.
Yes, exactly. I appreciate that because they don't limit it. It doesn't seem like they limit products. They tell you what's the high quality ones and why you should do it, like fat soluble vitamins, vitamin K2, and they tell you how to go about eating plants. And like I feel like I've felt they don't really push the need to eat plants. I haven't really got that vibe from them. The foundation. They will say like, sure, sourdough bread can be healthy. For this reason, the bacteria, whatever. But that's about it. I know Sally Fallon, the president, like she loves it, but she won't say like you have to eat it or anything. But so I think Weston A. Price Foundation, if we can make that more attractive to the world, then be in better shape.
Weston, he's my I really love citing his work and talking about him. He's been like some small hero in my estimation because he's summarized it beautifully in his work as far as I can tell, because it's nothing, he doesn't push anything, he just describes, and there is no disputing these facts. It's like, here it is. And I mean, these people thrive, they look great, they are strong, they have beautiful teeth, they don't suffer from disease, they are robust, they're healthy. And the moment they move to civilization, they get sick. The next generation is sick. So, I mean, it's clear that it doesn't come from genetics, and that's a stupid idea, because why else should they get sick immediately after transitioning from their traditional cultures over to civilization? And it's just amazing. And now you can just look at what is common among all these diets. It's like, okay, they don't have contact to the modernized foods, and they focus primarily on acquiring the largest amounts of animal products that is available to them in their region. So when they're living next to the sea, they eat a lot of seafood. If they're hunter-gatherers, they hunt as much meat as possible, as much wild game as possible. If they're farmers, they eat dairy products in large quantities, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm happy to see more and more people like learn about Weston A. Price, the principles I learn. I would like to see more acknowledgement of them though in the future. So that's been my big push too, is like continue. Like I've told a lot of my friends about new friends I've met, and like it's kind of like spreading across, and that feels good. So I think spreading his word. It's funny. Back in January 23rd, I made a post on Instagram. I don't know if you saw that. It was Weston A. Price Remembrance Day. It was.
He died. I haven't seen it. What's that? 23rd January?
January 23rd. This year I did the first ever Weston A. Price Remembrance Day thing. I thought it was pretty funny. Like he died 23rd.
Well, let me find that. Was it this one? Oh yeah, I see. Haha, that's cool.
So I did like,
happy inaugural Western Aid Prize Remembrance Day. That's nice. That's so nice.
yeah.
That's
So I
really
did my
cool.
favorite quotes by them. I thought he has. I like his stuff. Like I think that could really appeal to people, especially young people.
Absolutely.
Because like he's just talking about these rugged natives and these cultures. Like who doesn't want to be like them? And
hmm
I think we should really like influence younger people to about his work.
You
At
know,
the end of
I'm totally on your side, 100%. I see one tiny problem, which is that this uh, pathologically progressive wokeism is on the rise, and it seems to be way more attractive to young people than this message of tradition and kind of going back, because it's be like, yeah, that sounds very much like conservatism. We all know that that's bad because Trump is conservatism, and I don't know, like shit like that. It'd be like, so that's not the right path to go on, and so you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of difficult to make these people embrace that message, since there's like the uh, opposing stream of information and ideas, which is in contrast to that, which be like, no, 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 no way we are going to stick and relate back to our traditions. That's kind of stupid. We need to move away from that. We need to become more progressive, and I don't know, do stupid stuff as a consequence of that.
yeah, and my thoughts on that are,
Mm.
I feel like it's veganism has been used as like this propaganda thing to keep preying on individuals with that idea, if that makes sense. And
Mm.
veganism is just seen as really, yeah, progressive and woke and all that. And it's you can see why, like not harming the animals and you'll live forever and it's good for you. And so you're definitely right. Veganism is used as a tool to, you know,
Have you have you seen this Oxford debate about going beyond meat? Where you know
is that what
this woman, this woke woman was having this speech. Well, also Michaela Peterson actually participated, and there was like this one woman that was arguing pro going beyond meat, and man, like it's difficult to put that in words. It was just one of the most hilarious things that I've ever watched, because she was able to take every term available in the woke sphere, kind of all that white privilege, supremacy, patriarchy,
yeah,
like all these fancy terms, and kind of put it in her speech and explain, well, that's all related to veganism and eating meat, and why
yeah.
it's so insane. Like watching that was like, I really couldn't wrap my head around it. It was crazy. It was so hilarious. It was so hilarious. It's incomprehensible. Did you watch that?
I've seen clips of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a while ago, but yeah, I've seen clips. I can't remember what exactly she said that got me. I have heard that like eating meat is racist. You
Yeah,
know,
stuff like it's shit like that. It's
uh, like
horrible.
what? Like, I guess like their point is like slaves couldn't eat meat or something. Only the slave. Uh, I'm eating meat because I want to be healthy. Now I'm not racist by any means. So it's like,
Yeah,
please leave me alone.
I couldn't. I'm still not really able to figure out how she was able to connect these dots between racism and eating meat, or white supremacy and eating meat. Let me find this real quick. That
So
video was so hilarious.
yeah, I'll have to rewatch that one again. But
Wait a sec. Do you hear the? Wait a sec.
no,
So you can't hear the sound of the video?
no, I don't
Well,
hear
let me
anything.
try it real quick. You see you do see
Oh yeah,
my desktop now,
yeah,
but
I
you
see
can't
it.
hear the sound of the video. Do you?
No, I don't.
Oh, you
I don't know
don't.
if there's.
That's unfortunate. Okay, very unfortunate. Well, okay, then I'm not able to show that now, because obviously you need to hear the exact words.
I'll definitely watch
Although,
that though. Is that
yeah, it
what
was hilarious. It really was. you know,
Yeah.
and okay, you can't make this up. It's just out of this world. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like you can hear all these pro woke and progressive liberals. I'm not against liberals in the new sense. I mean, in the new sense, liberal, not in the classical sense, but in the new sense, how it's being portrayed nowadays. Talk about all the things that they usually are talking about, but this is like next level shit. This woman is, it's ridiculous.
I yeah, I'm happy that I don't know if anyone believed her. I hope not.
Oh, I don't know. It was comical. It was
Yeah,
so
definitely,
comical.
yeah.
Well, so Frank, tell me more about organ meats. You're a big fan of eating organ meats.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love organ meats. I like them because they add, honestly, variety to my diet,
Right.
and that's the biggest reason. And I think, like, yeah, everyone knows, like, they're health foods, they're superfoods, loaded with just everything, everything you need. And I like, I've studied the nutrition science behind it. Like the vitamin A content in liver, the CoQ10 in beef heart, stearic acid and suet, because fat is actually an organ as well,
Sure
technically. Yeah, and my biggest take on organs is I like to see how others in the past, made an effort to eat them and like why they did. And
Oh yeah, you've posted. I believe you've posted some quotes from. Was it like? It wasn't Western Pride. It was another book that described. Was it the lifestyle of the Eskimos or something? And or
yeah,
some other tribes, how they treasured like specific parts of the body, and especially, I can't remember the exact parts, but it was always like an emphasis on the organ meats.
yeah, it was. And I've heard how like eat like the liver and like the brains were always kind of eaten first. And I've heard quotes like muscle meats were fed to the dogs, and like what? That's crazy. And I my interest in organs comes from, I like to see how ancient cultures use them for like fertility reasons and hormones. Uh, Even without knowing the science, they just did it. And I thought it was cool to see how in the Inuit, like they ate fish eggs specifically for fertility in the women.
Wow.
Liver, like would go. I think it was in certain African tribes. I'm not sure who, but you'd have to wait till you're like 28 years old to eat the heart of an animal. Like it would only go to the warriors or like the hunters. And so it's really fascinating to read what these cultures did with specific organs. And so that's what I try to do.
Yeah.
There's a big debate going on right now, like do you need organs and how much is too much liver or anything like that. And
I believe that's a stupid debate. It's like talking about unnecessary details and confusing people beyond what's needed. It's like you could have a debate whether, okay, let me think of an example. Okay, you could have a nuanced debate about how much carbohydrate is necessary for individuals, and in which cases and circumstances and conditions reducing one's carbohydrate intake is of benefit to the patient. So you could have a debate about that, because that's definitely not settled yet, and there's some debate to be had about that. But if you want to eat liver or not, if you like, that's kind of stupid debate and confuse people beyond what's necessary in my estimation. It's like it's part of an animal. You eat the entire animal. If you want to eat them, if you want to eat the organs, do it. If you don't, you maybe will not die. If I don't know, it's like I find it not necessary to even discuss the validity of eating organs in such depth, and kind of it's this, you know what I mean. It's hard to articulate it because I haven't thought it through enough.
I mean, right now what I'm seeing is kind of a pushback on liver, actually.
Right. I saw that too.
some people like, I follow nutrition Judy Cho
Yeah.
a lot, and I've seen on her podcast, I like what she's doing for the most part. She just wants to bring awareness, like, maybe as much liver as some of us have been eating might be detrimental, and here's why. Like, it's interesting. Like, personally, I can eat 3 pounds of liver a week and I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it is interesting to kind of hear stories from people who say they've gotten like vitamin A toxicity from beef liver. I'm like, it's hard for me to believe that, quite honestly. Like, how? But I think ultimately, from what I heard, is like how well your thyroid is functioning.
Okay.
And I'm not 100% sure what the mechanism is behind that, but like, thyroids today, like, we're just not as, I don't know, strong as our ancestors, and maybe like liver is just too potent for some people. I don't know.
Yeah, there might
It's
be all
just
kinds of reasons. It's like, is it the vitamin A? Is it something else in the liver? Is it something else they were eating alongside the liver, which they also cut out of their diets, while along with cutting out the liver? There's like many questions to be answered in order to clearly say, okay, so I was getting sick from eating liver and I only cut it out and now I'm way better. It's difficult, and I don't know. I believe for most people, for the vast majority of people, eating liver would provide enormous additional benefit to their diets. And that's why I don't like having listening to these discussions, because, well, yeah, I don't know, it's like if you eat too much of anything, that might be bad, or that might have some weird consequences for your health. I don't know if that's such a great argument against liver specifically. If you just say if you eat way too much of that, it might harm your health.
Yeah, I didn't really get too big into those interviews and podcasts and thoughts. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I really want to respect others, like, bio-individuality for sure.
Right.
But like, you're going against organ meats. It's a little silly to me. It's hard to wrap my head around. Like, and I've seen a lot, this traditional carnivore diet, a lot of them are just eating muscle meat and seeing results. I'm happy for them. Of course I'm happy for them. And I do think, though, that adding organs just will make them healthier. I feel that way. And we've just seen it in history. And I think people should, ultimately.
Yeah, I'll probably agree with you on that, and I'm a huge fan of also adding organ meat if possible. The only thing, well, it not to counter that, because I'm in total agreement with what you just said. It's just that people shouldn't be bad if they don't have access to organ meats, nor it's like it's the same thing from both sides. It isn't bad. It is not as bad as some people claim, like Judy claims to be, in terms of liver. Like, that's probably not true, that organ meats are evil and not necessary, nor is it the case that you absolutely have to eat them in certain quantities in order to thrive. Does it can improve your health and provide you with certain benefits in terms of nutrients and bioavailability and certain other interesting, I don't know, whatever organ meats contain, like there are things maybe that we are not even aware of. Sure they can, because I mean they're part of the body. Every part of the body has a unique combination of different nutrients and I don't know, everything that this organ needs to function. And so it may be a good thing. You're not a bad person for not eating them if you don't have access to, if you don't like them. It's kind of not being dogmatic on either side.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And I make, I have beef heart today and bone marrow and suet. Like, I it's the bulk of my diet. I thrive off of it. I think it's a good way to save money. I think it's
100%. 200%. It's like they're extremely cheap. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it is funny. Like, there's less of it, but it's like cheaper, and I'm happy
because nobody wants them.
Yeah, so it's like I can't complain. So I love it.
People continue not buying these organ meats because they will stay cheaper for me. Great for
Exactly.
us.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part? What do you enjoy eating the most?
Favorite part of the animal?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely bone marrow.
Bone marrow.
Yeah, I think bone marrow is. And I know like you're big into brains.
Oh, I'm big into everything.
Yeah.
I just find the interactions with people that I have when telling them that I eat brain. It's like this absolutely makes my day every single time. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, you eat fucking brain. Like, how is that possible? You're a crazy human being. I'm like, yeah, I eat fucking brain. That's crazy. And you're not, so you're pathetic. I don't know what to say to them, but it's cool to see the reaction that people have when they when they hear me talking about organ meats. That's
Oh,
why I'm into brain, because it's cool to see people's reactions to that. But I'm a big fan of every organ meat. Basically,
yeah,
I think.
definitely me too. I can relate on that. Like, people just who don't know me seem like, what are you eating? I was like, oh, this is just raw liver and heart and kidney. And like, to me, it's normal. I'm like, what? What's wrong with you?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but no, like I love bone marrow a lot. It is my favorite. I love the history, of bone marrow and brains. And you
Mm-hmm.
probably heard that too, like how it just helped us evolve when we, as scavengers, we just,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, rocks after, our prey was hunted. We got the bone marrow. I guess our brains just evolved from that, and I just think that's the most important food.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah.
the marrow and the brains.
That's
To our
fatty. It's fatty too. Really contains lots of fat, and it tastes. I have a good friend. That's the friend I was talking about when I told the story of him being vegan for a short period of time and developing all these crazy symptoms. And he's now eating lots of raw meat and raw milk and raw organs. He's like going crazy about that. A little bit too
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, like, chill down, boy. It's okay. He's been like, and he's also one of these people who says, yeah, that's kind of maybe eating cooked meat is bad. And I'm trying to tell him, I don't necessarily believe that. Maybe there's some benefit to eating raw meat. I'm not on your side when it comes to cooked meat being bad necessarily. But okay, he's cool, he's funny, he's a freak, so that's what I like about him. But so what was going to say? Yeah, he told me about his first experience eating raw bone marrow. And he was like, it literally, to him, it tastes like ice cream.
Yeah.
And so that's his explanation for why people crave ice cream, because he thinks that's our internal craving for raw bone marrow. I'm like, cool, great theory. Why not? We all
That's
crave
well,
bone marrow.
no, I think it tastes like ice cream too, an ice cream or butter or something. Yeah, I think it's
Mm,
great. So I
right.
yeah,
But
but yeah, love it.
that's a cool. You're absolutely right with our history and bone marrow and how we crave it and how we need it probably, and maybe because of the fat, maybe because of the nutritional value, maybe because of something else. But there's something to it, definitely.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, like how we've seen. I think specifically of like African cultures where specific or people within the tribe, so to speak, within the village would get certain parts of the animal for certain reasons. Again, like the hunters or the children, the women, whether they're like uh, pregnant or not, like they just knew it. They didn't have nutrition
Right.
science books or whatever to tell them like what it is. They just instinctively knew it was going to help serve the job that they wanted to do, and I think that's very fascinating.
Yeah,
So
that wisdom is like super profound, and it's a shame that it got lost to some degree in the modernized world. Well, not to
yeah,
some degree, to a large degree, it got lost in the modernized world because we're confronted with, like, first of all, we're dissociated from that nature and from the reality. And second is that we're confronted with way too much conflicted information that is in direct contrast to the message that you're putting forward.
yeah,
Right.
definitely.
That's shame. So how much would you say of your diet is organ meats and well maybe give us a quick run through your daily eating routine and what you usually eat in a day.
Um, I generally stick with beef,
Mm-hmm.
just because most nutritious, fattiest meat that I can get. I don't even waste time on chicken. I don't waste money on chicken. I shouldn't sound harsh about it. I just don't. And pork, I don't eat pork really either, just because of what they eat and stuff like that. And I just stick with beef.
There are probably some good reasons for eating more. I'm a bigger fan of beef too when it comes to the nutritional value and to the fatty acid composition. There's an argument made for that specifically. Yeah, kind of iron content is another argument. So there are a couple arguments to be made for why eating beef is, I would say, nutritionally superior to like pork and chicken.
Yeah, definitely like the PUFA argument, the polyunsaturated fatty acid argument. Like that was good to learn about.
Yeah, I like it more, and it's like more primal. Like look at this red piece of meat, and you bite into it, and I don't know, it feels different, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. That ruminant animals in general, and like fatty fish. But yeah, anyways, like so my days, like I don't really follow a specific eating window per se. It's generally between 8 and 10 hours. And my first meal honestly could be between 9 a.m. or even 12 p.m. I'm pretty lax about it. Just depends on when it fits my schedule. And I've gotten used to it. Like I don't weigh or measure anything. Just with enough practice, I can just kind of eyeball how much fat or protein I want. How hungry I am.
No counting calories, I presume.
Oh, God. I never really did that. Like that's just horrible.
Yeah, it's annoying.
I mean, I could see why like some bodybuilders would do it or whatever, but
well, and for some people works. For some people it works. It's like one tool to have in your toolbox, and you can use it if you like. You should not use it if you don't like it. So that's like you shouldn't dismiss it completely, because for people, there are people that had tremendous success with using calorie counting. It's like great for you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know like in some people use like a therapeutic ketogenic diet, really have to measure everything. And I mean, good for them, beating, all sorts of diseases like type 1 diabetes or cancer and stuff like that by measuring it. But yeah, anyways, like that's, so yeah, I'll eat twice a day, once, depending on my schedule, between 9 and 12. And another time I try to get the majority of my calories in before sunset. I'm getting more into the circadian biology science there. That's fascinating to me. 100%. And so I'm not strict about times. I used to be like specific, like 5 p.m. dinner or whatever. Like I used to do that, but I didn't found that obsessive and just not.
That's a good point. If you become too obsessive about any particular thing, then, well, what happens then is you get stressed out about it. And I mean, then that's worse for your health than whatever you would do that you're obsessed about, or whatever you would not do that you're obsessed about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of people just be super strict in between 12 p.m. and 8 p.m. and like they just don't listen to their bodies. And so like I've worked hard to try to do that. That's why I'm pretty lax with the times. Just fits my schedule. I honestly don't know how much, weight wise, like how much I even eat in a day. Like it can be a lot, I bet. And it's right now, like I've been doing a lot of raw meat, mainly honestly out of convenience, and it's fun, exciting to me. And like, I don't think it's the ideal way. Like it's weird. Like I think cooking is great, and I should probably do it, but like I'm just so used to the raw, and so far it's working. Like I just want to experiment. If I feel like, oh man, I should really cook, then I definitely will.
Well, it depends probably on a number of factors. Depends on what you like more. Like an example for me would be raw eggs. I don't find them more tasty than cooked eggs. So there's no reason I see for me personally to eat more raw eggs than cooked eggs. I sometimes do that just for fun. It's like, my parents drink, I don't know, a glass of wine and be like, all right, I have a raw egg. Here we go.
Yeah.
So kind of stuff like that, but not really because I find it more tasty or like more nutritionally valuable, something like that. When it comes to raw meat, it's like it's an interesting thing. There is maybe some value. Certain nutritional components get lost during the process of heating. The protein is definitely more bioavailable when you heat it. That's kind of counter argument. So again, no need to get necessarily dogmatic about it. It's like eat whatever you like. You can eat more raw meat. You can eat less raw meat. Ultimately, that's not the most crucial thing to focus on. It's like when you cut out the processed junk and you have a good amount of your diet coming from animal products, you're doing 90% right. Sorry, 50% maybe right. The other 49% is the rest of your, or maybe more, like the percentages are just random, but a big chunk of it is these two rules in your diet, and then the other lifestyle factors like your movement, your sunlight, your whatever else is important for health, your sleep cycle, and then you're 90% there. Now you can maybe experiment with some minor things, adding more raw meat, eating more cooked meat. That's kind of up to you, whatever you like.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And yeah, that was a concern about raw meat, because I hear like cooked meat helps to undo like the tightly bound protein fibers within the meat so you can absorb it better. But like so am I going to get weak from eating raw meat? So I just want to see, and like so far I don't feel weaker because I have a lot more energy, and it's interesting. But like you're definitely right. I wouldn't say it's superior, quite honestly. I think there's room for both, realistically.
Exactly. And we probably would have done both.
Yeah, like, and I think Weston A. Price even noted that, like, first he noted like there was no vegan culture, but he also noted that they all did cook and eat raw at the same time. Even like the Inuit tribes, like they're called Eskimo, and that means like eater of raw meat. But they still cooked, and so it almost seems.
And they also had fermented foods. I think these three categories we have: fermented, raw, and cooked. And it's probably good to some degree to get a balanced proportion, like a good balanced proportion of foods from each food category.
Yeah.
And now you can see if you want to have fermented plants, fermented animal foods, raw plants, raw animal foods, or cooked plants and cooked animal food. That's kind of up to you. I believe it still has some benefit if you include. That's maybe another good rule to add. It's like eat from all these food categories and choose whether it's plants or animals. It's kind of up to you. You can eat raw animals, cooked animals, and fermented animals, or like add some fermented plants or some cooked plants. So
yeah,
that.
yeah, I would agree. And I'm surprised with how resilient the body is, and like though it's good to have this wide variety, I think the body does pretty well restricted, except in the context of like long-term veganism. I think, yeah.
Well, we
I don't
see
know.
that with the standard American diet. It's really restricted from on the one hand because you deprive the body from of all these nutrients. You're kind of malnourished when you're following the standard American diet because you're eating way too many calories and too little nutrients on the other hand. And so it's restrictive and damaging on the one hand. Still, so many people are able to sustain that for a very prolonged period of time and kind of live their lives and not die with 20 years of age, but with 85 years of age, and it works out reasonably well.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The body is insane.
Yeah, it's cool how it adapts, but like ultimately, what is optimal? Kind of like what is optimal? Like not just like what can you do and get by kind of thing, but what will be most optimal for living. And I do believe like raw, cooked, fermented, plants and animals or whatever. I think that's a good idea for sure. So like I will.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, I haven't had cooked food in a while, but like I do intend to. Like it's just experimental.
Oh, you
mode, right?
You didn't eat any cooked food for the past how many weeks?
Oh yeah.
Was it only raw? Was it exclusively raw for the past Few weeks?
Few months now,
Few
actually.
months?
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, I
cool.
moved to a new place and there's a lot of people here. The kitchen's kind of always taken up.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like fighting for space. So
Mhm.
yeah, I just started eating more and more raw and I was like, this is pretty cool. And my thing is like I want to see how I can maximize it. So I've been, you know, fermenting liver,
Mhm.
the high liver, which is great. A lot of homemade cheese and marinating meat and whey. And to me, that's
Mhm.
like better than just eating raw meat. Like I'm trying to maximize the enzyme content within it for digestion purposes. And so far, I feel really good. Um,
Mm.
I mean, I don't see a lot of people kind of talking about some of the things I've been doing, which is cool.
Mm.
Um, with like, yeah, marinating or preserving meat and whey,
Right.
and trying to ferment oysters or anything like that. Um, so it's been interesting, and yeah.
Where do you gather that information or that knowledge of how to process? Well, it's one kind of processing or preservation or whatever you do with these with the meat and with the oysters and with the liver. Did you just come up with it yourself, or do you have some sources where you extract it from? Because that sounds to me like ancestral wisdom to some degree. It's like that we would probably have done that before. We would have fermented all kinds of foods, and now we've lost that sense because we just go to the supermarket and buy a piece of meat and eat it, or buy a piece of cheese or I don't know, plant and eat it, and we don't know how to do it ourselves. And it's cool that you go back to that, but where do you get it from?
Yeah. That's funny you say that because part of it is like honestly, I just think of it. It pops in my head like, wow, I can do this. Like I know once I have read that whey is good for preserving certain
Mm-hmm.
foods. Like I have read like uh and I think it's Iceland. The people there
Mm-hmm.
would preserve or pickle muktuk, which is whale blubber, and whey.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
so I do read about it and like that's pretty cool. What can I do in whey? And so I've just kind of mixed different meats and oysters and stuff like that in whey, and it's been working, and it's just weird. So like I just it's
what do you
very
mean by
fun to play.
working? What do you mean by working? It's
Um,
working.
well, I haven't gotten food poisoning.
I see. I see.
And it when I consume it, it's very interesting because when you consume something that's raw and you work hard to like maximize its enzyme potential, it doesn't go to your stomach when you eat it. It goes straight to you can feel it just go straight to your muscles and your organs, like that
Interesting.
nutrition. And it's a really interesting feeling to eat something, a fermented animal product.
Quick
Um,
devil's advocate question, because someone could say, well, that's just your bias towards animal foods manifesting itself in that proclivity towards believing that this is what is happening. It's just kind of your belief that is manifesting itself in that feeling. So how much do you think is that a part of it, and how much does is there really a physiological effect that could be measured or that could be, I don't know, kind of quantified?
so that's I mean that's a very good point. And quite honestly, I I naturally by this point I try to be as non-biased and like try not to placebo as much as possible. Like
Exactly. It's kind of
I
placebo, you could say.
potentially have that in my head through like honestly my health history. Like you know, having had that experience with like nearly killing myself over veganism, it's like I'm not letting anyone convince me over anything or any food.
Mm,
So like I'm very happy for that because now I feel like I can really judge and justify how a food makes me feel. And I mean,
mm,
I've had liver raw and cooked, and like when I have it fermented, like I can really just feel the difference. Um, I approach it like, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. Quite honestly, I don't know if I'm going to get sick, throw up.
I see.
I don't know if it's going to feel good. So I just do it anyways. And I've always been surprised, like, yeah, when I mix things with whey, or I let things, you know, age for a little bit, they, you know, you just feel like the life inside of you
Mm,
reinvigorate. But so, yeah, to that question. Yeah, I don't know. Like I genuinely try to go in open-minded because I actually don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't draw any conclusions. I've had a time like 2 years ago where I drank goat's blood
Mm-hmm.
and from a goat that I killed, and I was like, this is going to make me super strong, super good.
Yeah.
I drank it, and then it was like, oh, that's weird. And then I woke up at midnight throwing up. You know, I woke myself up throwing up. And so it's like, I honestly, like, of course, I didn't do that to myself. That was like hours later after consuming it. Like, I didn't even know.
Right.
So like with all my experiences, I kind of just go in open-minded and just having no clue what's going to happen. So it's like,
Right.
yeah, I try to go in with an open mindset.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to approach it, because only then you'll be truly able to find out if it helps you, if it helped you, or if it didn't, and what is really good for your body and what's not. Because yeah, and then also what you could tell to the people truthfully, because now you could of course just follow this placebo effect and be like, yeah, I truly believe that this is now going to help me, and it does, and you do feel better. And maybe objectively you don't, but you're so much trying to convince yourself of the health benefit that you kind of get blind to the objective reality of you maybe even getting worse, or uh, experience a decrease in vitality. But you're so it's maybe what oftentimes happens to vegan people, or to people that are married to that ideology that are currently pursuing, right? And they
Yeah.
believe to that ideology, they believe that so strongly and wholeheartedly that whatever pushes them out of their zone of belief, they are not willing to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And I would also just like to add, like, you know, some of the things I'm like people that I call like my influencers, you know, I don't 100% agree with. Like, I won't let them trick me. So, like, you know, let's say Paul Saladino, like, I love his work. But he's a big like fruit and honey advocate. I will probably never eat fruit and honey again.
Oh, really? Have you tried it out? Have you had some negative experiences with eating fruit and honey specifically?
It's been years since I've eaten it, quite honestly. And like I had like maybe a tablespoon or so in like 2020 of honey. Once I saw that Paul was doing it, I'm like, this is interesting. I was nervous. I'm not gonna like,
Okay.
I was nervous, which maybe like kind of got the better of me, but I really don't like sweet foods. And like I appreciate
Okay.
what Paul is saying. I really do. But yeah, I that's something that I can't convince myself to do because
Right.
I know myself, and like I know I can't handle sweet food. So yeah,
And that's
that's
a
all I
good
can.
point. I think that's a really good point, because again, I think we shouldn't look at all the influencers and their work through the lens of this is the only thing that works, or this is the only one optimal way of achieving optimal health. I think that's a stupid way of looking at of thinking about it, because that's never going to happen. You have different individuals with different conditions and with different requirements for nutrients and for certain dietary components. And I believe it's still extremely valuable to confront yourself with that information and to acquire that information, especially me as a future physician. I want to have all these tools ready in my toolbox that I know, okay, so I know that, and it helps for some people. Let me try this out. Does it help you? Yes, it does. Great. No, it doesn't. Okay, here I've got another tool that I can use. Let's try that out. Maybe that is better in your situation, in your condition. And so
Yeah,
again, that's coming from the point of not being dogmatic. It's like many things can work, and we can just be open-minded to accept their applicability in different circumstances and use them if necessary. Don't use them if not necessary.
yeah, yeah. That's very well said, and that's how I approach it as well. Yeah, as tools. So
Yeah, yeah, that's probably that's a really nice way. Okay, so look, we're more than 2 hours in. It's great talking to you. I wanna ask you maybe one or two final questions, and then we'll need to wrap up. I believe. We'll definitely need to do that again in the future, because that's really cool to just talk about whatever we went through in terms of nutrition. But one thing I'm very interested in is how the way you talk to people changed over the years. So compared to the time when you were vegan, or where you had different ways of eating, and then transitioning over to now, and did anything change? And if it changed, then in which ways, and how did it affect your interactions with people?
Yeah, oh my God, huge.
Right.
I try to reach out. No, I definitely reach out to more people now. As a vegan, like I isolated myself. I didn't like anyone. If you weren't vegan, like I just wasn't talking to you. And like I chose not to hang out. Chose to devote my life to like food, procuring food for me, and just all that, and cooking food. But like now, as I've been getting more involved with like meat and carnivore, meat-based nutrition, ancestral health, whatever you want to call it, for the past 4 years now. I've really tried to be just a good support for anyone who wants to be healthy. I try to just lead by example. If they have questions, I'll let them know what I'm doing, and I'll let them make decisions for themselves. And like I'm always trying to be there for them. And I'm always in support. If they want to eat coconut oil or whatever, or cacao for the stearic acid, and because I hear that's good, and that's great. Like I don't like that, I'm a huge proponent if they do. And it's not just only about meat. It's about healthy whole foods, getting away, whatever you gotta do to get away from the processed food. Like I'm in support of. And so I want people to know, like, though I eat like a restrictive diet, I'm not dogmatic about it. I don't want you to fear me. People just probably didn't like me when I was vegan because I was just so annoying.
And judgmental, probably.
Yeah, and judgmental. So like, I'd really try, like, I want people to know, like, hey, I'm there for you. Whatever you decide to do to make yourself better, like, I want to be there to support you.
Right.
I did not do that at all as a vegan. It was just, vegan way or no way. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I think this listening part is very powerful, and the thing that you kind of, say, you yeah you kind of, you put a border between what you do and what you tell people to do, and that's not necessarily has to be the same thing. Whereas during veganism, it definitely has to be the same thing. Otherwise, that person in front of you is evil, and you're not going to be able to talk to that person. And that's stupid. It's complete. It's really nonsensical, because that means you close yourself up to the possibility of learning and growing if you just stay in your vegan bubble, or carnivore bubble for that matter, or keto bubble. It's like, choose your bubble and stay there, and don't talk to people and hate them, and you can be sure that you will stop growing. Great.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
yeah, for sure.
That's a great way to go about things.
Anymore.
Sorry?
So yeah, and I just don't want that for myself anymore. I don't want anyone to go through that. It's not right. So yeah, I just want people to know, like, I'm there to support you, whatever you got to do to get healthy. Doesn't have to be carnivore. You have to do what I do, but just something,
Did you had interactions with people where you were the kind of most important influencing factor in changing their health, or the way they were thinking about food?
Yeah, I think I have, like, there's some people in my life that I've met since moving to Vermont. They'll see what I do and, like, why do you do it? And I let them know, like, my health history, and, like, I let them know about West St. Price Foundation, and plants may not be as good as we thought, and like how to properly prepare plants, and saturated fat is good. And like, whoa, what is this? It's crazy. They see my content on Instagram, my pictures before and after, and like, so I have influenced people that I know and also don't know, which feels great.
Right.
It's really good, and yeah, I want to just keep continuing to do that. So that's my goal.
That's awesome. I just wanna real quick. You just mentioned that before and after picture. I want to bring that up real quick because that was mind blowing. Really, that was something. It was like really a
Yeah, like,
different person. I think I commented on that because and there was some comments like that was like, really, is that you? Doesn't really look like you. It looks like a different human being. I mean,
it
real
really
quick.
does. I mean, granted, the glasses and
Here we
facial
go.
hair.
Is it this one?
Yeah, that one.
Wow. Like, look at that.
I changed my draw structure. Like, I don't know how I. That's crazy.
Your jaw, right?
Yeah, and so that's the whole Weston A. Price thing right
Like, look
there.
at that. You have a white face on the right picture. And here it's
Yeah.
like, it's crazy. I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, and I saw that, I was like, oh my God, I don't remember that guy at all back in the day. So
Wow.
that's the
Wow.
fat soluble vitamins, kicking in to my jaw and my teeth. So that's great.
Man. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I was really I needed a couple minutes to understand that this is your transformation. Yeah, it was difficult to wrap my head around that. That was really something. I think that's
Oh,
powerful for people to see. So look at me then and now I'm a different person. I'm literally a different person.
yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Frank, look, it's way more than 2 hours. And awesome to talk to you. It's really great.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
enjoyed that conversation a lot.
That was great. Yeah,
Great.
we don't always talk. Whenever you want to talk again, DM, text, whatever. I'm always here.
That's great. That sounds great. When do you plan on starting a podcast?
Oh my God.
No, just kidding. It's time consuming. It's so fascinating though. It's like,
Oh,
and I learned that from Jordan Peterson. He has got a great rule, which is assume that uh, something along the lines of assume that every person you're listening to can tell you something you don't know, something like that. And that's kind of one message. And what he also says is if you talk to someone and you're bored, then you are the boring person. Because if you would truly listen to the person in front of you, that person would be unbelievably interesting. And I try to embrace that. And it's so true. It's like simply by asking questions and being curious, it's mind blowing what a person could tell you.
mhm.
So that's what I
Yeah.
like about doing these podcasts. And well, you don't have to, but it's still super enjoyable to have the ability to talk to people.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing like where you take this. It's going to be really interesting over the years.
Yeah, yeah, I really don't know what to expect from that. I believe it's just for now, it's just an attempt for me to better understand what's going on around me and kind of to because the world is way too complicated to grasp everything that's happening around me and just talking to people helps me understand where I'm still where I still can grow and what I already know and what I don't. So that's a good thing probably, and also share that with other people because every time I talk to someone, I learn a lot, and I presume from that if I learn a lot, there's someone else who could also learn something from our conversation. So that's probably also a good thing. And then yeah, I'm curious what's going to happen in the
Nice.
future. I
That'd be
really am.
great.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
again, thank you very much.
Well,
I
thank
enjoyed
you.
talking to you.
All right, thanks.
All right. Have a
All right.
great time.
Yeah, thank you.
See
Good
ya.
night.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's like 10. What is it? Half past 10. So it's bedtime. All right. So thank you everyone for listening to our conversation. As you probably realized, Frank had a really interesting story that he was telling us today about his health journey and how his health radically transformed, moving from veganism to the diet he's currently following, and also the mental transformation or psychological transformation that accompanied him along the way. And yeah, you can also you can find out a lot about the person in front of you if you just ask enough questions, and if you just stay curious and try to figure out what are the driving forces behind the person's decisions. And so that's been extremely fascinating to find out in Frank's case. So I hope you enjoyed our conversation. And yeah, I bet just follow him on Instagram. I haven't asked him that question at the end, unfortunately. He's on Instagram at instafrank95, I believe. Let me check real quick, but yeah, I believe it was instafrank95. So it's Insta, like Instagram, Insta, then Frank, and then 95. And yeah, please make sure to follow me on Instagram too. I have some great content coming up. Workouts, nutritional tips, just pictures with some thoughtful exploration of experiences and ideas, and some philosophical discussions, but mainly mainly information inside the nutritional space and health space, and some podcasts. So I have a new Instagram page, which is called Sapiens Playground, or Sapiens_Playground. It's Sapiens_Playground. So it's basically the name of this podcast, where I post snippets from episode of this podcast, and it would be highly appreciated if you follow me on Monkey_Cali Playground, MONKY_CALI Playground. That's kind of my main account, and then at Sapiens_Playground for more podcast related content. That would be highly appreciated. And yeah, you can listen to the podcast on YouTube and on Spotify, and also on Apple Podcasts and on every other podcast platform available. So that's it for today. Have a good time, everyone, and see you, or looking forward to the next episode I'm going to have with my next guest. And so that's that.